2 years ago, airlines got $1 billion in tax breaks, and their CEOs pocketed much of the money by giving themselves, I'm going to say tax breaks, but these were huge tax breaks, right? It ballooned our deficit to more than $1 trillion a year. Airlines used more than 90% of that money, of its own cash flow, stay with me here, 90% of it, to buy back their own stocks. 90% of their cash flow. That's like if you have a business and every time a dollar comes in, you stick it in your pocket, right? American Airlines, they were the worst, man. You know what they did? They bought $15 billion back. Knowing that, one can't help but ask the following question. As an American, should airlines be bailed out after we know what they did and how much they got? Most people would look at this and say, no, of course not. You know, anybody else who did that would be buoyed, right? Well, guess what? They're being bailed out. But it's happening in kind of a complex way. Joining us now is somebody who can explain this to us, I think. George Gammon. He's an expert investor. He's extremely prolific on YouTube. Me and about tens of thousands of other people watch him. At least I watch him twice a week. So here he is, George Gammon, joining us live here on the News with Rick Sanchez. George, take it away. Explain to us, as best you can, what the government did with this bailout and whether it's fair or not.
Well, it depends on if you approve of capitalism.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of free market capitalism, then no, it wasn't right. It wasn't fair. What the Fed did is they set up all these 4-letter programs, and they've even extended them to 5-letter programs. And I think it's just a way to create all this alphabet soup type stuff to confuse the average Joe and Jane out there on the street in Main Street, that really what they're doing is just bailing out these corporations, to your point. And in a free market capitalist society that really gets stronger through not only profit, but loss as well. Milton Friedman talked about this a lot back in the 1970s and the 1980s. We listened to him back then, but for some reason, we're not listening to him now.
Do you understand what we're doing with this bailout? It sounds like it's been put together in such a way so it's not direct money, it's like free credit. Is that right?
Well, there's a couple different bailouts. So the government comes in and they're doing this stimulus package. Initially, it was $2 trillion. I'm sure it will go up from there. But then the Federal Reserve comes in and backstops the corporation with setting up all these alphabet soup types of programs that I was referring to earlier. So it's basically where they extend a line of credit to the corporations, not just the airlines, but pretty much everyone in the entire S&P. So if they need to get extra cash to meet their bills or for whatever liquidity reasons they have, that the Fed's right there to be the lender of last resort. But unfortunately now, Rick, they're the buyer of last resort from the standpoint of they're not just setting up loans, they're also going into the market and proactively buying ETFs. So it started with just investment grade corporate debt, but now it's junk corporate debt. And I don't think there's a limit to this. A lot of the professionals that I see on CNBC or some of the talking heads out there, they look at what the Fed is doing today as though that's what they're going to be doing for the next 6 months. And I just see it totally differently. I see the Fed as looking at the economy as something that's propped up by asset bubbles, a massive amount of debt in confidence, and they're saying to themselves, okay, how can we keep this going? How can we kick the can further down the road? And whatever it's going to take for them to do that, that's exactly what they're going to do.
So what you just said is that we're going to continue just feeding the beast and feeding the beast and feeding the beast with helicopter money from now until what? The unforeseeable future, kingdom come? What?
Well, until we get inflation. And that's really the kryptonite for the Federal Reserve, because if you look at their toolkit, if you will, it really boils down to interest rates and money printing. And if we start to get inflation going up to 10%, 12%, like we did in the 1970s, the Fed can't print any more money because it just exacerbates the problem. So I think that's the end game.
Yeah, wow. Well done, as usual. George Gammon. Thank you, George. Appreciate having you on.